everyone, and welcome to another episode of the M42 Adventures podcast. I'm Chase Seegmiller, CEO of M42 Adventures, and I'm jumping on here to let you know that Rick's still off, on his adventures to Costa Rica. We've been having issues with, communication and Wi-Fi and things like that. So what we're doing in lieu is we're going to go ahead and air some of our favorite episodes. So it's going to be like a throwback episode, some of our first ones that when we weren't so popular that might have got missed from some of our favorite guests and the best interviews. So we're going to jump on that, do a little bit of throwback for this 56th episode. And then when Rick jumps back, we'll jump right back into the interviews. So hope you enjoy it.
New Zealand right there.
Dang, man. Dang, that's
and
cool.
Then Colorado Bucks and Impala. Yeah.
Dude, I love it. I love it. Yeah, we'll jump into some of that stuff. I'm excited to hear.
Great.
I just hit record. So am I good, Ricky, as far as the screen? I got Ricky in here with me, my guy.
Awesome.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you, man. It's
likewise. Nice to meet you as well. Did you just go to Africa with Ryan?
I did. Yes, I did. Yep. So I'm the one who kind of put that on. So that's what.
Okay, that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you know anything about it at all yet?
He mentioned a little bit about it just after we did our last podcast, and so. But no, I'd love to learn more about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd fit right in, man. You've got the lifestyle. So we'll just jump into this. I've got kind of my notes here, and then we'll see where this goes. I was telling these guys, I'm a little nervous for this one.
Why?
I'm new to this, so I'm new to this world. Do you know anything about me at all?
No, I'd love to know.
I was texting somebody. Did you get my text? Was that your phone, or was that going off into like last week? Last week, did you get any text from me?
Did I respond?
No.
No, then it was probably going off somewhere else.
Oh,
so
geez.
I would have responded to you. So no,
okay.
I apologize.
I didn't know how busy you were. So
maybe you've got the wrong number. I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, no worries.
I apologize.
You're good. It was just what Ryan, he'd sent over a thing saying, hey, reach out to this guy. And I didn't know anything about you either. I really didn't. I hadn't heard of you, and I'd heard of Mountain Ops. I've seen people wearing the shirts and stuff, being in the hunting world.
Yep.
And so I jumped right in, downloaded your book. I thought, obviously, we were going to do this last Friday, and then we had some internet issues. We had a big storm down here. And so I thought I had about a day and a half to do your book, read your book, listen to your book. And I got through it. I did binge listen. And and the reason I'm nervous is, like I said, we have very, very similar stories. Which is really weird.
Awesome.
So a little bit about me, just so you have it, because I know it's one of those things that's weird, is when you throw your life out there and you write a book and, everybody feels like they know you. So I'm from Utah. My wife's from Kaysville. She went to Davis.
Oh, wow.
You're up in that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And started my first company in Tijuana, Mexico, a wood mill.
Okay.
Got up to about 300 employees down there. In 2006, was really rocking about 2008. And then obviously the crash happened.
Yeah.
And lost everything. So when I was listening to your book, I got very emotional listening to you get emotional because, man, you go back and, nobody can really understand. We lost our home. We lost our vehicles. They repossessed them. I was pawning TVs off the walls and guns that were not sentimental to feed my children. My wife was 9 months pregnant at the time.
Wow.
And we ended up going back into my grandparents' basement and just rebuilding. And so, when I was reading it, I just kept seeing myself in those stories and, being there with my wife and she's pregnant. And I remember asking her, are you going to stay with me? Or I've lost everything. And she says, of course, it's not, I wasn't with you for money. And so we rebuilt. I'll just go real quick. We rebuilt. I'm in construction, and we started buying rental properties. I worked for 3 years. I didn't take a day off. 12-hour days, not one day. And that was my longest stretch, was a little over 3 years, 38 months. Christmas,
You
birthdays.
kind of have to do that, right?
You have to. Yeah, I didn't have a choice. So my business, my construction company, was guaranteed by my parents' farm in Utah. So the only thing that I couldn't give up was, I had $600,000 in loans that were guaranteed by the company, by that farm. And so a big hole to dig out of that I couldn't get away from. And we just went to work, and I didn't take a paycheck for 18 months. My wife went back to work as a 911 dispatcher here in Utah, and we lived off that income and dug out of the hole, made changes to our lifestyle. And I actually sold the 65% of the businesses in 2017. And we went traveling. I've been traveling for the last 7.5 years with my wife and my 2 little boys, now 3 little boys.
Wow.
So we've been to 70 countries.
Wow. And what have you been doing in those countries? That's pretty amazing to climb yourself out of that hole and then be able to travel the world, huh?
It is. Yeah. We bought rental properties. So I got 8 rental properties, paid off, got away from all debt. And so that income, along with the sale of my business, gives me, I should never have to work again as long as I'm not an idiot,
It's amazing. That's awesome, man. Congrats.
So that's my story. And so we came back in 2020 to have a child. So we had my 3rd boy. So you've got 3 girls and a boy.
3 girls and a boy.
And I've got 3 boys. And then we came back this year just to have another baby. And my wife's pregnant right now with a little girl. We just actually did our gender reveal in Africa.
Wow. Congrats.
So 3 boys and a girl.
3 girls. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So are you guys here in Utah still?
Yep. I'm in St. George.
You're in St. George. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a place down there. So when I'm down there next, I'll call you up. We got to get together.
Yeah. I've actually got a place down here too. I'll send you a link to it when we hang up, and
cool.
I'll get you and your family to it. It's insane. It's insane. It's
awesome.
over by Zion, and it's right on top of a mountain. It's wild. It's wild.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's shocking.
So what's been the favorite country to travel to? Where have you guys gone?
Yeah, I get that a lot. Italy. I love Italy. My kids, we haven't gone anywhere too crazy. I mean, we've gone to like China, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, but
that's not too crazy, huh?
No. Well, I mean, you can get pretty, nothing too dangerous, but we like New Zealand. We road tripped New Zealand for 6 months. We road tripped Australia for a year. We road tripped all of Europe, 17, 18 countries there for 2 years. Jeez. So kind of a wild story,
That's
man.
Amazing,
so,
man. Yeah,
enough about me, but
I'll have to have you. We just are about to launch the Conquercast at Mountain Ops, and we'll have to have you come and I'll ask you the questions. And,
what's that? Like a podcast?
A podcast. Yeah.
I love that.
So just changed roles here at Mountain Ops. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yep.
And it's good.
What is that? So we're going to kind of jump ahead, but what are you doing? We're definitely building to sell Mountain Ops. We sold part of it a few years ago to an incredible private equity group, and I'll always be a part of it. It's like my story. It's my baby. All that we're doing with Operation Conquer Hunger and such comes from these hard experiences that we've been through, but it's so much a part of the brand and our family's story. But a few things: succession planning. Putting somebody in place that can be there after a transaction that will stick around. We brought on the former CEO of. Well, he was the CEO. We recruited him away from Onnit, and he's an incredible individual. Really aligns well with the brand. We've been friends for a couple of years. Knows the supplement industry like the back of his hand, and just solid leader. And so super excited to have him on board. He's taken my spot as the CEO. But what it also is allowing me to do is free up some of my time and attention to focus on driving awareness to the brand through podcasts, through our own podcast. I just wrote a book, as you've mentioned,
getting that out there as a tool to help people understand kind of the backstory to Mountain Ops and the heart and soul of Mountain Ops, that we're much more than just a supplement brand. We're doing a ton in the community. We're doing a lot for individuals so that they can perform most effectively within the walls of their own homes as husbands and fathers and wives and mothers. And, and so I want to have my time freed up a little bit to do more of that and to show what Mountain Ops is doing for the individual, for the family, and, speaking engagements and such. And so having this new role will allow me to do that and then create some succession planning that, once we do have a transaction, that I can go and focus on donating more and more meals. I love what we're doing with our Operation Conquer Hunger, and ultimately in the end, I'd love to spend more time doing that. So, and obviously more time with my wife and kids, and maybe do a little bit of what you're doing, travel in the world. We do a bit of it, but not like you. I love getting out, learning other cultures, trying their foods, meeting the people, and just kind of soaking it all in. And there's so much to see in this world. I'd love to have more opportunity in the future to do that. Hunting's given me some of that, in South Africa multiple times, and New Zealand and Alaska, and all around here in the United States. And it's allowed me an opportunity to really connect with some incredible individuals. And that's what I've loved most about hunting and the hunting industry that we play a role in. So.
Well, and that's what I love after, listening to your book. And that's where I kind of felt like we're kindred spirits, because we both lost everything. We built it back, and have become successful, right? Quote unquote successful.
Yeah.
And, everybody, whenever I tell people, and those who know me, when I first, I went to my family and says, hey, in January of 2017, I says, hey, I'm going to head out and go travel the world for a few years. And they're like, what? What do you mean? I don't understand. And I'm like, I've got enough money. And they're like, enough? What does that even mean? And I says, you can see over here on my wall, I've got a thing. So my Instagram's One Life So Live.
Cool.
And, I can tell that that's what you embody, because it's hard for people to step down. A lot of people get their ego, or they get, this is my baby. And I was never that way. You actually mentioned in your book, Mountain Ops isn't my identity. It is a big part of me, and I love it, but it affords me to go do what is my purpose. And that was me, was spending time with my family. That was number one. You've heard all the things where they say you spend 80% of your time with your kids before they're 12, and then you get another 20% up to 18, and then, or 15%, and then 5% after 18. And it's like, that's not going to happen to me. I want to get all these years in, because they're going to be gone.
Yeah, they are. Man, I'm living that right now. I've got my oldest turns 20 next month, and she's out in Brazil on a mission. And that came and went like that, And then, I've got a daughter that's ending high school this year, a son that will end middle school, and a daughter that'll end elementary. So kind of at the end of each of these phases of life. And I was telling somebody the other day, there was so much time spent, building and all this. And I think I was pretty intentional and fairly successful with spending time and attention with my kids. But, building a business, sometimes it is a 24/7 job. And so there are some moments where I'm like, oh, I wish I would have been a little more present during this phase or during this time or whatnot. And now where life is at a point where we have been able to spend a little more time, my kids aren't there. I was there when, I was trying to be there, and now all of a sudden, hey, I'm there, and they're like scattered. They've got so many good things that they're doing. We try to keep that in check so that it's not that we're doing everything. It's not like they're, just a part of any club or sport or all this. Like we try to keep that in check enough to where the family has time with each other. But they're busy and they're off and they're wanting to do those things you and I did when we were teenagers and, when life was happening for us. And so I can't blame them, but I'm like, oh man, like I'm home. Let's come home. I'm here for you. Yeah. And so it goes the phase of life that we're in right now. It's an interesting one, but I'm also enjoying it, watching my kids grow and learn and develop and make choices that, will lead to great outcomes, I hope. And they're doing good things. So I'm proud of them.
Well, and how old are you?
I'm almost 43.
Okay, so I just turned 44. So that's what's also crazy
Okay.
is my oldest is
We've been
12. I'm
okay.
like you're like, I'm coming right behind you. I'm on your heels, so I'll need
Yeah.
some advice, especially with this new little baby girl coming. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's exciting.
that's exactly like you're saying. I thankfully, M42 is a passion project. I still don't have to work. I came back and we wanted to have a baby, and so I thought, hey, this is an idea I had. Ryan's a partner on it,
Yeah.
an owner of it, and it's just, so you're exactly right. Where I'm luckily I'm able to, I went home last night and wrestled with my 4-year-old, on the couch and stuff. So
Yeah.
grateful that
It's
that's
awesome.
here now, but I'm aware that it's going to change. They're going to want to date
Yeah.
and do all those things. So, well,
Yep.
let's jump into this. I got some specifics here that I want to go through with you. So,
Cool.
again, like I said, I just wanted you to know a little bit about me and kind of my history because
No, I'm grateful to know that because there's so many commonalities. So we'll see eye to eye on a lot of this, and then
exactly,
after this podcast, I want to connect for sure. So
absolutely. So, yeah, CEO of the year in Utah 2024, right?
yeah,
That's
yep.
insane. That's insane right there alone. That
That kind of caught me off guard, to be honest with you. I was just at home over the weekend, one weekend, and got this email. We've been a part of different best place to work in Utah type awards and that type of thing, and entrepreneur of the year events and stuff like that. But this one, it just kind of came out of the blue. I got an email and it said that one of my team members had nominated me, and they had reviewed the nomination, and we're going to award this award at this event. So I was like, you're telling me that like I already won, or do I need to go through some steps to like, and so I responded with that, like, hey, am I receiving this, or is this like a potential thing? Like, I don't get what's going on. And they said, no, you'll receive this. And then they told me who it was. It was our VP of sales, Darren Yates, an incredible individual. He just, he is the brand Mountain Ops. Like he lives it. He loves it. His whole family does. They're just all about it. And he's been an incredible support here at Mountain Ops, and actually has built out our retail program at Mountain Ops into all the retailers that we're in right now. But I talked to him about it, and he just said, the qualities that I'm watching you live and such, like you deserve this. And I don't feel like I deserved it. There's a lot of great people out there, but the team that I have surrounding me is like really what's created any type of success for me or any type of recognition. I can't just say, yeah, I've been an amazing CEO. No, it's like I've had an amazing team. That's been like one of the highlights of building Mountain Ops for me, is being able to be part of assembling a group of individuals that really have the same mission in mind. Their heart and soul is in this, and our culture is incredible here. And so any success has come by way of connection. So to connection to him, like Darren, to the rest of my team, to my family, to my God, like that's what's created the secret sauce for what's occurring here at Mountain Ops. Sometimes I just am sitting in the seat that gets the recognition, so.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I understand that. And I think that's what makes you a great CEO. The ones who sit in the seat and say it's all me, they're not going to get nominated, So that just shows your humility, and that's why people are drawn to you, and that's why you're so successful. And then what also hit me with that again is hearing your story, and just, like I said, it's not even just hearing it, because I lived it. I went through not being able to feed my kids and not being able to put money in the gas tank, or gas in the gas tank, and so for you to come and to win that award, I just think, man, you had to have sat there with your wife and said, wow, and I'm sure you have that all along the way in all these different chapters, but that was a cool one, man. Just reading that, it's, I just seeing where you've come from, and to that's gotta be just a humbling feeling.
It was rewarding, especially that, my team members saw fit to do that. But I sat there with my wife, and my two oldest daughters went to that, and then I had some team members there, and it was a great moment. But honestly, like, to recognize the team and the goodness that they do. And then at that moment, I was contemplating, do I hire a new CEO? This is, the timing was right. Right. There are, just to prove it, like, there are much better CEOs than me. And I just hired the best one I could, and we're lucky to have him. So
It's also good to be able to be like, hey man, listen, I am the best. So you got it, the bar's been set, brother,
yeah,
Um, yeah.
he doesn't have big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
comes in. He's himself. It's awesome.
Yeah. I would never want to follow up CEO of the year, but that's just me, that's a little intimidating. But so yeah, so you're nominated for, or you win that, and then right now, right on the heels of that, or maybe, after, I don't know, but you release a book, right? So the Conquer Code, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I was getting to, why I'm intimidated with this conversation. And we'll get more into it. It's a couple pages down here, but growing up in Utah, similar background, similar, I grew up LDS, and then I fell away. And I know your book, it focuses on that. That's that's at the center of your life.
Yeah.
And so I was telling my partners here, I'm like, man, this one's a little out of my, the last few guys I've been interviewing, have been, you actually just had Eric Chesser on, Eric.
Oh, Eric's awesome. I love Eric.
Yeah. And Ben from Shed Crazy. I don't know if you know Ben.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so I can talk hunting. I can talk,
Awesome.
we've had some surfers on and some dirt bike motocross guys and stuff like that. But faith, and religion is, I don't want to say intimidating, but it's something that I haven't had, and so I want to dive more into that, because I've got a couple stories. But even just when I first started reading your book, and you tell the story about your daughter, looking for the Lord, and God and Jesus in the book, and you get emotional, and I get emotional, and I'm over there like wiping away tears, and I'm like, what is happening, but it was very well written, and so that's where I'm a little intimidated. It's outside of my comfort zone. It's outside of my knowledge. I'm just ignorant, Like I said, the first 18 years of my life, went to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
Scouts, fast offerings, baptisms for the dead. I did all those things, and then I fell in love with a girl, and didn't go on the mission, and then I just kind of went right instead of left, and and so it was really cool to see somebody that I could relate to on so many different levels, and respect, and then see that you had this in your life. And I actually just grabbed one of my partners. He's very religious and just a really good person. He just walked in the door about 6 minutes before we were supposed to record. And I says, hey, I'm going into this podcast and I'm a little intimidated, and he says, just be honest, just be honest and open. And so we'll jump a little more into that, but that's where I'm coming from, just so you know. And I'm
No,
I don't want to be disrespectful or say anything, not that I would, but I just want you to know that I'm ignorant on that aspect, and I want to learn more.
you're good. No, and I'm an open book, as you can see. I've put it all in the book, and kind of not left anything out as far as where my beliefs lie, and ultimately the book is called The Conquer Code, and that code it's complete, it's open, it's unlocked through my Savior Jesus Christ. There's no, in my life, I've found that is the greatest way and the only way for me. And so I've not shied away from that. I do respect and honor and revere, and like I say in the beginning of the book, that people have different beliefs and backgrounds and thoughts around faith and religion and spirituality, and I love that. Like I love to learn about others, and that's why when I say I'd love to travel the world and experience other cultures like that at the heart of it, it's that I want connection with people, and then to understand where their beliefs are and what their faith is like, and if it's in an energy or if it's in something else. Like I love that they have something to turn to, and I've just found what mine is, what my source of strength is, and then I've put it in the book. But it's more than words in a book. It's I just feel like as individuals, the more we can just be true to who we are in life, and we are who we are wherever we are, the more happiness, the more joy we'll find. And so I'm an open book, and I'm a simple man, so you don't have to feel intimidated at all. I like even my faith. It's simple, but it's pure and it's strong. It's like what carries me through. But I've found some very simple routines in life that keep me connected to that faith, and it's been everything to me. So yeah, no need to be intimidated. You'll find more and more you get to know me, I'm as simple as they come.
No, I
So
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was actually on Ryan's podcast a couple years ago, and he was asking me about my, faith, and I says, I don't know where I stand. He says, do you believe in God? And I says, I don't know. And he says, do you? And I says, I would never ever deny it. Him, or why would I? If I don't know, why would I go that way? And he said something to me that has stuck with me. He says, Rick, you're probably the most spiritual person I've met that isn't religious, and I says, wow, that, and that's always stuck with me, that, like I said, I still live by the values of the church. I still respect them. I was telling, this guy's name's Woody, my partner, whenever I travel the world, anywhere I'm at in the world, if I see missionaries, I try to buy them lunch.
Awesome.
I just love them. I think, man, these young kids are out there, even if you don't understand the religious aspect of it, it's like they're out there 100% serving, and they're scared. They're far away from home. They probably want to, most of them want to hear an American accent. And that's where I've always lived, whenever I'm out and about. And so, the part that I have with religion is I'm envious of it. I really am. My father-in-law, a few years back, his sister had passed away in a car wreck. And my wife called him up and says, Dad, I'm so sorry, that your sister passed away. And he says, it's okay. He says, I'm going to miss her terribly for the next 10 or 15 years, but I'll see her again.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the phone call. It was through the car. And then she hung up and I says, man, I'm jealous of that. I'm envious of that knowledge and that belief and that faith to just know, I don't have that. And you can imagine, I have all the other aspects of my life in order. I have a good marriage. I have beautiful kids. I'm successful financially. I'm, living the dream of traveling. But I wish I had that comfort. I really do. And so I want to talk a little more about that. I've got that towards the end of my notes here.
That's
but
my
that's a
favorite
big deal
topic.
for me.
So no, that's good. I'd love to chat more on it. And I've had similar experiences. My father passed away this last year, and everything that I've once been taught or have taught became very real to me, and he was the purpose behind the Mountain Ops product and how this all got started to begin with. So there's a lot to that as well. That's whether it's a test or trial of my faith, it was like it put my faith in an area where it's like this is firm. This is my knowledge. This is what I know. And so, we can dive into whatever questions you have about that or however you want to go along those lines. So
I love that. Okay. So, I want to talk obviously more about the book, that's what we're here kind of, letting people know about. Again, I've already referred it to 7 or 8 people in the last weekend.
Appreciate that.
I listen to a lot of books, hundreds and hundreds of books. I'm a book junkie. I have been, I actually have my little boys, they read a book once a month, and then I write a test for that book. And then if they pass it with 80% or higher, I give them $50. And so my 12-year-old's written read like 30 or 40 books, on,
That's so cool.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, whatever it is, anything I can find. So I'll throw yours into that mix because it's a very good book.
That is awesome.
So first and only book you've written, I mean, that's got to be pretty intimidating. How was that to... what made you, I guess I know because I've read it, but you wrote it for your family.
Yeah, it was a process, and it originally started with just I feel like God's given me an ability to have experiences in life and then to see them from an eternal perspective and to kind of watch his hand as we move through those experiences. And I didn't want those to just, be a memory or to be a thought or something that I had for myself. I do believe you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. And I know that my children will go through life and they'll experience things. And so I created it almost as a journal to begin with that would go to my children and my wife and hopefully, future grandchildren. And And it started with that, and I called it divine delays at first, because I felt like there was all these things that I wanted to happen in my life, but they just weren't happening on my timetable, and so there was, but as I walked through those processes and things did happen, they might have happened a little different, usually better, but in a different timing. And so I started to realize these delays I'm experiencing, they're very divine, they're from God, and I need to pay attention to that. And I was very intentional about paying attention and choosing to see that along the way, as was my wife. We talked about that quite often as a couple. And so we wrote this, and then as I was writing, I was like, hey, this is kind of formatting into like a good flowing like book. Like this kind of coming together. It honestly took about 5 years for this process to culminate, where it was like, okay,
Wow.
I've got a manuscript. But it was along the way at Mountain Ops, part of our culture is that every month we do our Conquer More Challenge. And it's you have an accountability partner, and each of you set goals that you share with each other in the realms of spiritual, physical, mental, social. And then right in the middle, we put a core value for the month. So this month it's desire, that we've been working on in August. And we set a goal for each of those. And so for like 3 to 4 years, each of my accountability partners, I would tell them in the mental phase, I'm going to write 400 words in my journal this week. Every week I'm going to write 400 words in my journal. So they all thought, okay, he's big into journaling. And then just this last year, at the beginning of the year, I announced to my team, hey, if you've ever been one of my partners, how many of you have heard that I was writing in my journal in the mental quadrant? And these hands go up, and then I said, well, the actual thing that was transpiring or taking place was I was writing a book that's now called The Conquer Code. And everyone's like, what? You've been working on a book? But so for 5 years, it took me that time to put the manuscript together. Then I wasn't quite sure, is this just something that I give to my children? And I'm not a good writer as far as like punctuation, grammar, like, spelling, all that. I don't succeed in that realm. So I actually hired an editor for a year, and every week we'd sit down together and we'd go through like 15 to 20 pages, and we'd get it all kind of tidied up. And yeah, this needs to flow from this to this. And they really helped me just structure it correctly, so that I had something I was proud of to hand over to my wife and kids. They knew I was writing this, but nobody else really knew. At the end of the year, I gave it to a few people, and two of them actually were board members of Mountain Ops. And one of them in particular came back and said, Trevor, you've got to utilize this as a tool to drive awareness to the brand. It gives a backstory on you and what your family's been through, the reasons for doing Operation Conquer Hunger, where did the product come from? Like, the more we can have this transparency and trust with our consumer, the better for our relationships with those consumers. And so, and he just said, he's from New York. He's like, there's just not enough good content out there for people to absorb or to take in and consume. And so let's use this. And so he was this cheerleader for me, that just encouraging me. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous. But then I shared it with the rest of the board at the next board meeting. Said, I wrote a book over the last few years. We could utilize it as a tool. So yeah, I have a few different reasons for having written it. For my children first. And as you see in there, you find the Lord again and again and again, just like I shared the story with Savvy. For my children, one day I won't be around. One day they'll be in Brazil, maybe Africa, wherever they might be traveling. I want them to know that their father spoke of Christ. He talked of Christ, preached of Christ, rejoiced in Christ, all these things, so that they know when I'm not around, and even if I am around, they know the source of peace, of strength, of forgiveness, of all these things in life that can bring them what they need to face the future and this world that's full of craziness with some confidence. And so that was the purpose. Like, I'm going to write these words so that they can find the Lord again and again and again through the words of their father. Another purpose is to point people to this brand of Mountain Ops and what we're doing in the community, these core values that make up the decision-making guardrails and factors of leading us towards our mission, which is to improve the lives of individuals and families. And then, as I mentioned, the Conquer Code is my Savior, Jesus Christ. Ultimately, when all is said and done, more than anything else in life, I want to point people to him, to that strength, just like I want for my children. There's a quote that says, a man filled with the love of God is not content with blessing his family alone, but ranges throughout the whole world, anxious to bless the human race. That's what I feel like. It's my family's everything. What I do within the walls of my own home is everything. It's most important. Those connections are most important. But I feel this this call from God, this desire to like share him and to point people to him, because I know what the relationship, what the connection that I've had with my Savior has done for me. And so I just have that desire to get that word out there in as much of a normal and natural way as possible, knowing that everyone has their own thoughts and beliefs and feelings, but those that maybe will resonate with what I'm sharing, and they find a way through, a daily routine to connect with him a little more fully and awaken that divine, then that's what this is about. And I've received some feedback on the book recently that's, if it was done now, it's done its job just by having connected with one individual, two individuals. I'm a very much like relationship driven person, and even Mountain Ops, it's kind of a one-on-one business build where it's like this relationship matters most. Let's work with them, let's build them, let's help them find ways to conquer more. And so it's been received well, and I've gotten some great feedback on it. But I think more so than anything, it's because it's pointing people to some truth that either it confirms what they already feel, or it's helping them remember something they once felt, or it's teaching them something new that they're like, this resonates with me,
Absolutely. I think, I've thought about writing a book. I've thought about it, because of my story, right?
You should.
And I loved how you said, you did it for your family. Once you said that, it's like, well, you can't lose. You cannot lose.
Yeah.
That book is already won. It's, for your kids, it's already met its value times 10,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that really hit with me. It's like, man, just to write something so my kids, my boys, my daughter, can hear my words like you're saying.
Yeah.
That's a big reason I like doing this podcast as well, because then they can go back and listen to these and see
So
who their
awesome.
dad was, and so I love that. And that's where, I'm one of those guys where I'm very specific with my time. We have to be, right, and just hearing your story and what you represent and stuff, I just thought, man, he's, you're cut off the same block as me,
Yeah, and you should write the book for sure. And I love that you're recording these, and that's something like every hunt that I've been on, and a lot of those happen with my children and with my wife, like they've all been filmed in some way. Sometimes it's professionally recorded, sometimes with our phone. I've got hundreds of thousands of photos and videos on my phone that my kids are like, you did this again. But it was interesting, like sometimes they're like, put the phone away. I try to record everything, and sometimes there are moments where it's like the phone needs to go away. But when my daughter was leaving to Brazil, she got a little emotional, and we were looking back through like the childhood years and all this stuff. And she's like, thank you for recording all of this. That we get to go back and we get to almost relive these things. So it's not just a memory, but it's like the details that were recorded along the way, and the memories and the moments that just build our relationships they're all there. And some of them are to the public and some of them aren't, but it's like, we have that record that won't just be for them, it will be for they. Think of like, we used to have to go develop our film and all this, like look what our kids get to pass on to their kids, and it's pretty incredible when we have the tools at our disposal to record all that we do.
Yeah, when we first started traveling, my wife was taking pictures of everything, and I'm the same way. I'm like, put your camera down, live in the moment, come on. And thankfully she didn't, at times she did, but during COVID, we had been traveling for like 3.5, 4 years, and came home, to have a baby a couple months before COVID hit, and then that all happened. But for my birthday, she took all of those photos and made them into books.
Yeah.
And so now we have all these books, that you go through, and I'm like, wow, I am so grateful that you did that, that we took the time. So yeah, I love that.
That's what I do for my kid. Every year for Christmas, I give them a chat book. But when I post on social media, it's my journaling. I do like hashtag I love Hallie, hashtag I love Kenzie, I love Beck. So at the end of the year, I can go into chat books, and anything with this hashtag, make a book out of it.
That's
and then
genius.
At Christmas time, they get that element.
I love that.
So,
I love that. I'm still in that one. That's great. That's a good idea. So wrote the book, and then right out of the gate, you wanted to run a marathon, right? And I think that's where, M42 Adventures, our motto, we're 6 months old, we're brand new, we're a baby. But basically,
what does
we're
it
trying
stand for, M42?
So M42 is when you're trying to come up with a brand, it's impossible these days. Everything's taken. So
Everything's taken.
yeah, it's the Orion. It's the scientific name for the Orion Nebula. So the Orion constellation. Cool. Our community online that we're launching on Sunday is called the Genesis.
Cool.
And so we've been building that for about 8 months. And basically we're trying to get people, outside. So we did a Hawaii experience. We're calling them experiences. That was a hunt, but it's still an experience. Yeah. Like we just went to Africa. There was hunting there, but we went to the orphanages. We did like a cooking class, butchering classes, helicopter rides. So we're, with my travel background, awesome. You don't want to go just to Africa and shoot something. It's like, come there and so, so that's what M42 is doing, is we're trying to get people outside to do, we did an Alaska one. We have a boat in Alaska too. If you ever want to go up there, let me know.
Very
I know
cool.
a guy.
Let's do it, man. That's awesome.
So, anyway, that's what this is about. And so when I saw that you had done that marathon, it's like, you're obviously a guy who loves an adventure. You're into hunting now, which I am very passionate about. Yeah. What, I heard you, because I'm not a runner. I cannot stand it. I get so bored. Plus I'm 6'5". But you had bad knees. You had all my excuses and you still did it. Yeah. So do you still run? Do you still run all the time?
I ran this morning, but not like I did when I was running that, like prepping for that marathon. But I do. I love incorporating that cardiovascular routine into my routine, but I don't necessarily love it. It's interesting that what I found preparing for the marathon, and I literally found the hardest marathon in Utah.
Yeah, Moab, right?
Just Moab.
That's not on. That's on. That's not on. That's on dirt, I would imagine, right? That's not even on a road.
It's all trail. Yeah, which I love trail. Like the road sucks, and I've been running it in the mornings just out my door from my house, but I don't enjoy it as much. But if I can get up into the mountains, and I found just a playlist of songs that when I put it on,
that.
I felt like I was while I was training, felt like I was like this warrior running through the woods. I just needed a loincloth. But then on my marathon, I ran every mile for someone.
I love that part. The 26 songs, 26 miles. That
26 songs. Yep.
That's where it starts speaking my language. Where, I'm just one of those guys I'm like a statistician. I break it up into, and I'm like, and you were talking about your. Did he pass away? The gentleman that you ran for? No, you ran for. There was a
Kyle,
boy in there.
Mason. His dad's name Kyle. He passed away about 2 months ago. And he had a long battle with cancer. He was just 17 years old. Just graduated from his high school class, but from the time he was 10 till just a couple months ago, just battled it. And in fact, the night that my father fell, he fell down their stairs and broke his neck. And so it was a tragic, like very abrupt death. I was talking to Mason and his father back and forth on Messenger, like, just some things that were going on in life and checking in on Mason to see how he was doing. And then like literally right as I stopped texting them, I got a call and that my dad had fallen. But so they're really good friends. We've never met in person. That's the interesting thing about this, community and social media and everything. We've been supporting each other for a long time and just been friends and checking in on each other and praying for each other. And his dad provided me, he said, here's the song that Mason wants you to run. And it was gonna know, we were here. So it was, the day I found out he passed away, I went out and I ran like 6 miles straight with that just on this loop, thinking of this young boy, because I've got kids like that. Now this father that he's going through, he had spent his whole life just attending to his son so that he could have those moments with his son. So trying to not take life for granted. But yeah, I've learned a lot of lessons from the connections that I've been able to make through business and life. And so that helped me run. I would say I'm not necessarily a runner, but I chose this difficult race to run, thinking it'll be a one and done. I'm not going to do this again. I'm coming up on my 40th birthday. I'll invite some friends. And I got a big group of friends and family to come and do this, and some of them I guilted into. And most of us, it was our first time running a marathon. Truett Haynes actually challenged me to do it, and he said, "Hey, less than 1% of the population has run a marathon." I didn't know that, and then a smaller percentage run a trail marathon, which makes it a bit more difficult for me. It's easier just to be in nature and to be, having different variety of climbing or terrain or whatnot. Much better. And then I hired a coach, and so that made a world of difference. And that coach helped me, get out and stay accountable to being on my feet, putting my feet through that, my legs through that. But I would say that every run, whether it was the first run I started or the last training run before the marathon, the first 3 to 4 miles, they all were horrible. And then once my body is getting accustomed, okay, I'm out on my feet, I'm getting loosened up, and I'm 40, so it's like I got some aches and pains and everything. Then mile 4 and on, then I don't think you get to any type of runner's high until you've passed that hurdle. And that's why I think a lot of people say, I'm not a runner, I don't like it, it's no fun. It's like you kind of have to push yourself past that, and then you get into this groove. And then from about mile 4 to 15 on my training, I was like, I wrote some chapters in my book in my mind while I was out there. That's where I did experience this runner's high, and just thoughts and everything were flowing, and I had time therapy. Just to connect. It was therapeutic for sure.
Interesting.
It took time and it took commitment. And then at the end of at the marathon, the first 20 miles felt good. I had a smile on my face. It was the mile 20 to 26. I was like, what in the world just happened? And especially the last 3 miles, I was like, this is horrible. But it was a matter of 30 minutes. And I was like, I got to do this again,
Wow,
and it was like,
really?
maybe I can go a little bit further now. And I've gone out and just run on my own a little further, but I haven't done any official races. But I think that's next. I've got to find something, maybe a 50 or 100K, and start preparing for it. I loved having something that I was working towards. It was part of my routine. It was pushing me outside my comfort zone. And it honestly helped me just progress in life and think about life in a different way. A lot of the times while I was running, and you read this in the book, I would look off to something in the distance, and I got to just get to, well, did you see the fireworks going off on my screen?
Yeah. What is that?
I don't know. I'm doing my hands like this, but I would look.
Hey, I just wanted to take a second in between this interview and remind you of a few things we have going on over here at M42 Adventures. Now, with M42 Adventures, we also have the online community, The Genesis. On there, we have 26 channels of interest. 11 of those are actually mentored by experts in those fields. What we have there is the Genesis 250 giveaway. Now, we're almost to 250 members, and as soon as that happens, we will launch a epic adventure vacation. So it's 2 days at the Elevation 40 Zion property that's owned by Rick Trimmer, our founder, and a whole bunch of other neat little goodies. There's a video on our Instagram page at M42 Adventures, and you can check it out there. But as soon as we reach that will launch, and that's something to really look forward to. As well as May 17th, we have the M42 Adventures Shoot House Level 2, which is an intermediate professional level course, pistol only. So we'll be running through a shoot house and variation of different setups for different shooters inside and outside, both levels, below and upstairs to above. So you shoot from a risen position. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we also have a few other things coming up and just in development, lots of different things with our mentors, trying to get things across the nation to Pennsylvania, Chicago, things like that. So please jump on M42 Adventures. If you're not already a member of the Genesis, jump on, join. Let's get the giveaway launched and go from there. Jump
but
back
I
in.
would look.
That was amazing.
I would look up at the fireworks.
I was going to say,
wow. But I would make it to that tree, and I'd be like, okay, now I just got to go to that tree, and I'm always trying to parallel the physical with the spiritual, and so I was looking at a way of progressing through my runs and through life, and looking up to this mark, this determined mark that I was going to get to, and then I'd push it out a little further. But there's a scripture that I love, and it says to not look beyond the mark. And so as I was looking up to the mark, and then I get to that, and I look beyond to the next mark, and I was recognizing in life, that's okay to work towards those milestones. But the mark that I was thinking of as I was paralleling it spiritually is my Savior Jesus Christ. He's the mark. And so often in life, we look beyond the mark to what will fulfill our success in life, houses, cars, whatever it is. And a lot of us take our eyes off the mark. And ultimately, what will matter most is that relationship with one who saves, with one who gives life. I love a scripture that says, I've come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. So if we feel like we have an abundance of life, you and I, we've been blessed, right? We have a great family, we've successful businesses, maybe some vacation homes and this and that. And, but there's more than that. And it comes through the one who came to give life more abundantly, maybe in a way that we don't typically, focus on. And so my running kind of helped me focus in on those lessons in life and how I'm journeying through life, and that he is never something up in the distance, never a mark to reach out. He's right there always with his hand stretched out, just waiting. And whenever we reach out, it's there. So,
yeah, I love that. Like I said, that was, again, very inspirational for me to see somebody who, what I respect about people who do and not say, there's so many people who they just are always talking and saying they're going to do this, going to do that. But I like that, it seems like you're a man of, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go and I'm going to see it to the end, and so, I love that. Another part of that, I think this came a little bit after that, but it might have been during that, but was how you talked about your dream of when you were auctioning your time. That was the one that really hit me because, again, time is everything, to me.
Yeah.
And so when you talked about that and you had that dream where people were raising their, your family's raising their hand, that really influenced me because that's how it is. That was just such a perfect analogy and representation of how we give our time, and that you need to be thought out, and are you giving too much here, not enough there? And so I really loved that story.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I actually, when we hold Operation Conquer Hunger events where we bring people together and we assemble meals, I share that story before every one of those events because people are there raising their hands saying, hey, I'm here willing to help. I'm willing to give some of my time and attention, but also the meals that we pack. In my dream, I saw hands going up of people I knew, my family, people from work, people from church, people from the community. And then there were strangers that had their hands going up. And I was really concerned in my dream that, like, why would they need me? What are they calling for? And so as it pertains to our Operation Conquer Hunger, I often think of the mothers and fathers or the children that we serve through the Mountain Ops community that have their hand up saying, please just give me a little bit of your resource, a little bit of your time and attention. And in that dream, it was so real when I woke up. It just replayed itself in my mind over and over again. But in that dream, it wasn't just time that I was giving. It was time and attention, which was even a step above just giving time. Because I think sometimes we can be somewhere and we can be giving time, but are our thoughts there? Are we listening? Are we truly present in those moments that are we engaged? Yeah, exactly. And so, I think about that all the time. And when, going through different phases of life, and right now I'm going through a different phase of life where I've offloaded some of my responsibilities and I'm taking on new ones. And I have to look at, like, where are my resources going? And a lot of times in life, we complain about not having enough time. And I believe the God who gives us the time we have gives us the time we need. What we do is we exhaust our efforts in the wrong areas. And so it's so important with all the hands going up in our life saying, hey, look my direction. Give me some of your time and attention. It becomes super critical for us to say no sometimes, to evaluate where it should be going, and to make sure that those relationships and those areas of life that matter most are receiving the proper amount of time and attention. You seem like an individual that has mastered that with your wife and kids, and there's much more I would like to do there, because those are the relationships that I cherish the most, and so it just comes down to being intentional about that gift that we've been given, and it can be taken away today. Tomorrow is not promised. And so today, the present is sacred. We will never live in the future, because once we get there, it'll be the present, And so it's important that we pay attention to the choices that we're making today. When a new member of our Mountain Ops team joins our family here, I sit down with them. I talk to them about the culture of mountain ops and what they should expect and the core values and how they drive us towards our mission. And I give them a new pair of shoes to start this journey on. And I tell them the choices that you make and the shoes you wear today will determine the shoes you wear tomorrow. The blessings, opportunities, responsibilities, or which blessings, responsibilities that will be stripped away because of the choices. And so it goes one way or the other. And I learned that lesson in a very powerful way. I had a young man in my neighborhood that passed away a few years back. I was asked to speak at his funeral, and he was one that was known for the shoes he wore. He always wore these pastel colored shoes, and everyone knew him for that. Like, there was thousands of people at his funeral. And I was struggling to try to figure out what to share. Like, how do I honor this young man's life, bring some peace to his family? And I just had this inspiration from him. I felt, his name's Gabe, and he, Trevor, talk about my shoes. Talk about the shoes I wore in life. And how those moments someday is, we should, there's a danger in the word someday when what that means is not this day. And it can be the thief of the opportunity of time and the blessings of eternity. Today is the day we have to choose. And I learned that lesson through my friend Gabe and the shoes he wore and the things he taught me while he was wearing those shoes. And so I share that with our Mountain Ops team, give them those shoes and hope that they have an incredible journey on this path of Mountain Ops and what they're learning and growing with here. But it's so important that we're intentional with the time and attention that we give today, and not like, hey, when I get to this point, I'll give it. It needs to happen today.
Absolutely. I actually have here in my notes, one of my favorite quotes you had was, you pile up enough tomorrows and you'll find you are left with nothing but a lot of empty yesterdays.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. If you, it's time and what you do with it and being very, like you said, with engaged. I know a lot of people who say, I'm playing with my kids, and you go there and they're on their phone, their kids in the room. It's like, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
You got to be, they want you to wrestle. They want you to be the bucking bronco, they want you to tickle them, and so, so man, like I said, everything you write in there, I could talk to you forever. There's some other stuff I want to get to, but, everything that you wrote in there, it just felt sincere, and I think it's a lot too with you reading it. I can tell, you're very, you got your emotions on your sleeve, and I do as well. Everybody that knows me, I always get,
sweaty eyes.
Yeah. I cry at commercials all the time. I cried probably 6 or 7 times during your book. I did, because you can just feel that passion and that love. And so, yeah, I want to get into.
I appreciate that.
Get into some of this. Obviously you went through losing everything we talked about in the beginning, founded Mountain Ops. Was it Mountain Ops in the beginning when I know you're doing it with your father with his.
Yeah, we did it. It was called Phoenix Nutrition, and I called it that because it was this new life beginning, the kind of, rising from the ashes. And my father needed that from his health, and I needed something new from a business standpoint. And that business is still in existence. It sells through chiropractic offices for the most part. And that product, though, in the Mountain Ops lineup, 4 years after starting that, we found an opportunity to go out after the hunting audience and this hunting community that wasn't really being served by a nutritional supplement company. And so we found that there was an opportunity, massive hunter-athlete movement. And the product that I had created for my dad is now called Enduro. It's one of our staple products at Mountain Ops. It's a cardiovascular and non-stimulated product that a lot of our big sellers have kind of spun off of. Like Yeti is our pre-workout, Ignite is our #1 seller. They all have the base formula of Enduro in it, so it's helping people with their heart, and then with energy, with focus. We've got a pre-workout that helps people with their muscle strength and allowing the muscles to not fatigue during workouts with the nitric oxide boost and such. But it started with my dad and that first product, and then 4 years later we started Mountain Ops with that same product. But
that's amazing. So Mountain Ops is a supplement nutrition company.
Yeah.
Is that
Ops
right?
Stands for Outdoor Performance Supplements, and the mountain, the abbreviation of mountain is, it can represent a lot in life. The mountains we face, the mountains we're climbing, the achievements we're trying to obtain, the summits we're reaching towards, the obstacles that are in our way, the mountains we've confronted in our past, maybe in the current situation, in the future, we'll all face mountains. And so we want to be a brand that from a physical standpoint, we have products that serve you. but from an emotional and a social and a connecting standpoint, like our wellness regime focuses around spiritual, physical, mental, and social. And so when people join our community, that's what they receive. It's a little different than most. And then, excuse me, people that buy our product, because my family had gone through, these hardships, and we had faced our own hunger issues. During those times, my wife and I it was our faith that carried us through. It was our faith in our Savior Jesus Christ. But we would read the Bible all the time, and we would read anything that like stood out. Talking about food was like our eyes were drawn to, like feed my sheep. I was like, I would take that literally, where he's talking about the gospel. It's like I gotta feed his sheep. I gotta, or I'm the bread of life, or when a young lad brought him two fishes and 5 loaves. And I felt like that young lad, like, this is all I've got. I don't have much. But my wife and I made a commitment that with those 2 fishes and these 5 loaves, we would try to do something with it to help the person that we once were, or in the moment, the person we were. It was $22 donation that we started with. And now at Mountain Ops, what we do is the orders that come through, people are buying a supplement that will benefit their own life. We take a portion of the revenue from that, and we donate a meal to a child in need. And we're just about to hit the 7 million meal mark, having been donated through what we call Operation Conquer Hunger. But it all stemmed from our own experiences. You and I have had them. Our eyes were open to the need because we had the need, and now the need has become the gift, and it's been incredible. But it was kind of one of those moments in our life when me and my wife, sitting in bed one night, we had just finished reading Think and Grow Rich, and we had written out this like document, like, here's what we will do. And part of that was what we were going to do for God's children, and that included feeding them. And so we made a commitment back then. The choice we made was to not wait till the boat came in full, because honestly at the time I never thought the boat would come in full. I didn't expect to become rich. I just knew that God, I was a mission-driven, passionate individual. I wanted to do good in this world. But so much of that time I was like, I just feel like a failure. I don't know if I'll ever get out of this, but I want to do good. I'm going to do good. I know God needs me to. And so we made that commitment. Then over time it's grown. And we've multiplied those loaves and fishes to where it's all come back 12 baskets full, and we have more resources to work with.
Millions of meals you guys have
millions
supplied.
And millions.
That's so. I just told Woody, I says, they've fed, or they've done 4 or 5 million meals, and he says, whoa, like that is, and I love, like you said, with one of my companies, we plant a tree for every order, and we've been doing that for 20 years. Awesome. It's a wood mill, and so we're taking wood, we might as well give something back.
It's amazing.
But we did that through the recession. We did that when we couldn't, I couldn't eat, and it's only a couple bucks for a tree. But at the same time, like you said, if you start when the ship is full, one, you may never start, and I'm with you on that, thinking my ship's never going to be full. But yeah, man, I can't imagine. I take that back. But what a beautiful company that you have built with such a, it's literally changing the world, and I love that. A lot of these businesses out there, they just, they produce money, and that's fine. That's capitalism. That's great. Yeah. But I love that you took it beyond that, and I think that's why you're so successful, and why people are drawn to you is because it's not about the money, it's about making a difference. So yeah, I'm a fan, man. Like I said, after reading your book,
I appreciate that.
It's got to be a pretty fun thing. I wanted to get into hunting just a little bit. So
yeah,
you're new to the hunting world. I heard some of your stories, and I love them. I've been right there. I actually did a podcast. If you get time, go back and listen. It's an elk hunt, but it's about bears. And it's pretty hilarious. It's a true story.
That's awesome.
It's pretty hilarious. I did it with my dad here in the studio.
Oh, cool. I'll go listen to it for sure.
It's pretty entertaining. But yeah, man. So hunting, it's sounds like it's, I mean, I can see your wall. It's changed your life. It's changed mine. I hunted. Did you hunt at all growing up ever? Like, did you ever hunt?
Starting Mountain Ops was the start. I think I killed a squirrel as a scout when I was 12, and it like crushed me because I was like, oh man, now what? Like nothing. Like
you gotta eat it.
It was dead. Yeah. And I didn't, and that made me feel bad.
No, yeah. Yeah, so I grew up hunting, with my family and whatnot, but I took a lot of time off. I enjoyed it, but Ryan Mickler, that's actually how we grew up together.
Yeah.
And then he called me. He knew I had bow hunted a little bit, and he called me to go to Hawaii 4 or 5 years ago. And I was actually supposed to head to Alaska with my wife and kids up fishing. And it was like a week before, Ryan Mickler style. And I changed all my plans, and I flew out. I says to my wife, listen, you know, Ryan rubs shoulders with some amazing men. I think it'd be a good opportunity to go out there and meet them. Do you care if I delay our Alaska trip a week? And she says, no, go ahead. So I flew out there, and it has become my absolute passion. And it's not, I tell everybody this, it's not the kill. It's not.
Yeah.
You know, I just sent out my message. We're doing another one in Hawaii next year. There's 8 spots. I sent it out to our original 10 people, and you know, I've got 2 that missed out on it because they didn't text back fast enough.
Yeah.
You know, Eric's going, Chesser, Ben's going,
Cool.
Brandon Lilly. I don't know if you know him. He's an author and a power lifter. He's at Sorenex. Do you know Brandon?
I know of him. I don't know him, but yeah,
Okay.
I know who he is.
So great group of guys all going
that's
out.
a good group, yeah.
Ryan's going, Brecken's going, and but man, you know, how do you explain to people what it's like to have these experiences and hunts? You know, people think, oh, you're going out there and, you know, you get a lot of pushback. I do, at least, of you're killing an animal, and it's like we're like you said. I love the word harvest, but it's more the community, is it not? I mean, it seems like you
100%. Like, I always talk about connection, connect and conquer. Like that's my big thing. And I feel like hunting has given me an environment and an opportunity to connect in one of the more incredible ways in my life. And I now have, because I didn't grow up doing it, now I've like dove head first. When I first started hunting, we started mountain ops. My partners at the time, they were big into hunting. They knew the industry. They could speak the language. They could walk the walk. I couldn't. So I was just happy fueling the passion of these individuals. And that was really a thrill for me. Like, okay, these individuals, we can activate the hunt, the passion of the hunt within them every single day. They can drink this, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know what the passion of the hunt's like, and there's certain tools and such that people can't use unless they're in the field, like their rifle or their pack or their, you know, whatever, they use that then. But mountain ops, they can activate that passion every day by like, okay, I'm getting out my mountain ops product, and it kind of it associates with hunting, and that's what hunters love. I didn't understand that completely at first. I was just excited to be a part of it. And then Eric Chester's Firebull story and film, like that was the first hunt film I had ever watched. And I saw more respect and love and appreciation for the outdoors, for animals, for all this than I did most anywhere else, people that are non-hunters. And I was like, man, there's much more to this than just the kill. And then the food. I watched him like cooking it up and taking it home and using it. And remember, I'm just coming off of this 7 years of famine with my family. And so I now was learning an opportunity to go out into the mountains, bring home protein for my family, and to provide in a way. And that was huge for me. Provide, protect, like that was everything for me from the beginning. And I felt like through many years, like I struggled in some of those regards. And so hunting gave me this purpose to go out and bring food home. And it was that satisfaction was incredible. That's what intrigued me first. And then once I experienced it for myself and I started getting my wife and kids involved, I often say I don't have FOMO, I have FUMO. I have fear of others missing out. It's like going to a good movie or a good restaurant or something like that. And for me, it's the gospel. It's like, oh man, I love this. I've got to share it. Like it's the best thing, you know? And so hunting became one of those things where I can't just do this on my own. So I got my wife involved. Her first hunt was in Alaska on a caribou, incredible caribou that we have hanging above the fireplace here at Mountain Ops. My 2 oldest daughters, when they were 10 and 12, bear hunt. Like we were scared to death because when you don't grow up in that, it's scary. You're going to go out and confront bears with my 2 little girls that are cheerleaders and dancers and stuff. It's like, what am I doing? You know?
Yeah, listen to my podcast. I grew up in it and I'm terrified. It's terrifying.
Oh man,
it's scary. Right outside the firelight is danger. I know it. It's wanting to kill me, you know. So
I always think there's a movie, I haven't seen it, but the title is The Hills Have Eyes. And I'm always like, whenever I'm walking around hunting, I'm like, the hills have eyes. Like I always feel like I'm being watched, you know, but especially on that bear hunt. But both of my daughters got bears. And then you took my son to Alaska on his first hunt. My youngest got her first hunt, you know, out actually pulling the trigger was in Africa. And my first hunt ever was to Africa. It was kind of a spoiled way to get started, but I've got my dad into it. My mom,
Your mom's story was
one of my
amazing.
brothers, like my mom's story, that was incredible. And,
So amazing.
and she was the one that's like, it's in my blood. Can I do this again?
That.
I'm getting some type. But my dad, he came back from his first, it was an antelope hunt, and he had a blast. He loved it. He was up there with me, my brother, our sons, and him. So there's these 3 generations. We gave my dad his first rifle, and it had his name engraved on it, and Leupold sent a scope with his name engraved on it, and like all this stuff. We were so excited about it. And at the end, we interviewed him, and it was difficult for him to take. And there is this feeling of, okay, I'm taking the life of an animal. And it was maybe more heavy on him than most people that I've experienced that with. It's not just to be like, it's not just to, whatever. You got to think about it. There's a spiritual aspect to it.
100%. I think that is that should happen. If you don't feel that, there's, and like I said, some feel it more than others, but that's, absolutely.
Yeah. And my dad, as he was interviewed on camera, he said, I haven't fallen in love with hunting, meaning the kill aspect of it. It was just kind of hard for him. Where my mom, it was hard for her to take now, but she understood, like, this was going to provide for our family. And I'm going to give it to my grandkids and all this. She was just so excited about this and asked, can we do it again tomorrow? And then my dad said, I haven't fallen in love with hunting, but I have fallen in love with what hunting can do for relationships. And ultimately, when all is said and done, like, I go out on these hunts at the end of September, my daughter's, she has a elk tag up at Strawberry Ridge. Incredible. Like, my daughter last year that's on the mission now shot a 350 bull up there. I can't wait to get out there with this daughter, spend that time. Rifle? We will be. It's rifle.
That's awesome.
It's any weapon at that time within this. It's a CWMU, but she'll shoot a rifle. And then we'll have Rich Froning there with us. I think he's doing it this bow, but we'll have a good group up there. And we won't have our phones most of the day. But we'll be out in some of the most incredible creations and this beauty, and we'll enjoy it because we're disconnected, right? And then I've always said, like, let's enjoy the beauties, but let's let them, all these creations, let's have them help us point our way towards the Creator and think of Him and what He's given us. And so, we'll have some of these conversations up there, me and my daughter, about life and about creation and God's creations and what He wants us to enjoy and what He wants us to think. And that, how is she feeling about life and what are her desires? And I can't wait because we will be undistracted. She won't have school. She won't have dance. She won't have all these things, friends. It's just me and her time up there. And we'll use that to connect with each other and to connect with God. And so my dad was spot on. I love what hunting can do for relationships. And the people that I've met in the industry, I mean, we're connecting because of this hunting industry. And yeah, there's always some oddballs in the industry that you just don't connect with. But this industry has welcomed me in as a non-hunter when I began this company with a few others back in 2010. I was a little worried. There was a lot of big burly guys that were intimidating to me, and I didn't know how would they treat me as one who doesn't know the language and the lingo and all this. And honestly, I showed a desire to know and to learn and to grow in it, and they took me under their wings. Every single person that I've connected with, that I've said, hey, can you help me with this? I've received nothing but love and support and examples along the way. And so my life now, I feel like I've just seen this incredible movie. You're eating at this incredible restaurant, and I'm trying to get as many people that haven't hunted to at least understand it. And then if you have a desire, like, I'm here to help you along the way. We've got a lot of people at Mountain Ops that had never hunted, and I've taken them on their first hunts. And that's one of the greatest, satisfactions for me. We even created the Mountain Ops Hunt Draw this last year, where people with their tenure and different participation in company activities can build up points to put in for hunts.
That's cool.
And they're going on hunts that they never would have. And one of them's going with me to Strawberry Ridge, and we call it Jurassic Park up there because they're just screaming all over the place. And then one won our intercompany fitness challenge, and he's going with us up there as well. He had a major transformation. So we try to, within our culture, create these opportunities of reward that aren't just monetary, but experiential, that people want and desire in their life. And then we'll record it so they can have that record for their family as well,
I love it, man. I love it. I'm all in. You know, that's you're speaking my language. Like I said, I just went to Africa. My boy Hayes, he's 9. He just shot a gemsbuck, his first ever animal.
It's awesome.
You know, they interview him at the end, you know, and it's just the funniest little conversation. And then my 12-year-old shot a gemsbuck and a springbuck, and
cool.
first animals, you know, and like you said, spoiled.
Yep.
I mean, you know, 9 and 12 hunting in Africa for their first time, but yeah, it's absolutely, it's I love it. It's my, and that's again why I want to, you know, why I'm doing M42 Adventures, is trying to get people to, and it doesn't have to be hunting. You know, we have 36 different things. You know, we're doing surfing, we're doing mountain biking, we're doing golf, you know, anything outside to get you off your phone, away from, you know, distractions, and, you know, hopefully to travel a little, maybe to go here or there, go to Utah, come to Utah, go to, you know, we're doing one in Costa Rica next year, a surfing school, a surfing experience. But yeah, I love it, man. Hunting is amazing. So, I want to ask you real quick. So I don't want to, this was the kind of the one that I wanted to touch on, but, so faith, you know, I wanted to touch on that because again, we've gotten to know each other here a little bit, but, you know, I don't have that, and I talked to Woody a little bit about it, and my mom, you know, my grandma who passed away, my grandpa who was my closest friend, passed away in the last few years. You know, they always have wanted me to come back, you know, and, you know, and I know that's out of love. You know, I'm aware that this has brought joy and comfort to them, and they cannot not say that to somebody that they love. You know, how do you not share that? How do you, you know, one funny story is I read your book and I liked it. I just was like, man, this is a good book. It's got a great message, and got me thinking, I'm like, what am I missing by not having that? You know, I feel like I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not that religious person. I don't go to church, you know, I don't do that. And I'm like, what am I missing? Am I missing something? Is this something that I need to bring into my life? And I went home. It was on Friday. I went home Saturday. Me and my wife went to lunch, and I says, hey babe, listen, you know, she grew up, her dad there in Kaysville, was a bishop for like, I think 3 different times. So she has a little bit of animosity towards it because she always tells me, you know, I never saw my dad. He got home. He worked at a bank there, Barnes Bank or something, I think. Is there a Barnes Bank back in the day? Yeah. And, and she says, so I felt like my dad gave so much time to the church, and everybody else got my dad. I didn't. And so there's a little bit of tension there, and I'm aware of it. We've been married 20 years. Yeah. And I says, but listen, babe, you know, so kind of my thing with my kids is, I don't necessarily want them to go to college unless they want to be a doctor or a lawyer. I want them to be an entrepreneur, and I want to help them with that. But I told them, so when they graduate, I says, I'm going to send you traveling, and I'll pay every month. I want you to move to a new country, and I'm going to give you books to read. And as long as you pass the tests, I'll pay for you to go to the next country. And I'll do that for 24 months. And I want you to see the world, meet people, read, 24 books. The tests are going to be much harder than the ones I'm giving you today. But that's kind of my thought. And I says, well, listen, babe, what if we talk to them about going on a mission? You know, and she's like, what are you talking about? You know, and I says, listen, I know, you know, this is coming out of left field, but I've read this book. It was an amazing book. You should read it. Just hear me out. And she says, we can talk about it. Let's think about it. I says, listen, you know, if you just take away the religious aspect, it's service, it's growth, it's, you know, so much. And that was Saturday at like noon. Guess who knocked on my door Saturday at 5:00? Missionaries. And I opened the door and I says, wow. You know, I says, man, if I was a religious person right now, we'd be in trouble. And I talked to him on my doorstep for probably 30 minutes, told him our story. You know, we've been out of the country for 7 years. You know, we had him knock on our door during COVID, and we actually had the boys talking to them then a little bit. But I says, one of them's from Heber, and he goes home in a month, but they says, hey, can we come talk to your boys? And I says, let me grab them. So I grabbed the boys out of the back room, and I says, hey guys, here's the missionaries, would you guys want to hear them? And my oldest says, about, what? And I says, just whatever they're going to say. I don't know. I says, I would never want to keep you from something that might enrich your life. I says, you can say no, because I also don't force them. But yeah. I says, but I don't want you to think that I kept you from something and you find it 10 years later and say, Dad, why did you never let us know what this was about? And they said, sure, we'll do it. We'll do it. And so they're coming tonight at 5:15 and on Thursday at 5:15. And that's because of your book. I'll give you the credit because it's true. But I'm one of those guys where I love being a student. I love the world. I love, like you said, that's why I travel. I eat all the food. I want to know everything and experience everything. I love life. I'm very passionate about life and relationships and all these things. And I'm curious to see what faith or that could add to my life. So I don't know if there's a question in there, but I don't know that there's
I got some.
If you got anything for me, that's
I probably have way too many thoughts going through my mind to make sense of them.
Okay.
First of all, you as a father, telling your children like, hey, being open enough to say, hey, listen and make a decision, like just super commendable. Because a lot would say, I don't know about this. I'm going to protect my children because I don't know first. It's like, what greater thing to do than like learn alongside your children and learn together. And they might bring some insights to you as young, innocent kids that you might have guarded up because you're older. Absolutely. And we let our ego and pride get in the way, And so congrats there as far as a mission and like, asking your wife about, hey, what about a mission? We're going to do this 24-month thing. Like that's like, you like opening up the conversation like that to your wife, to me speaks volumes to like, okay, that's the faith of a mustard seed. And it just begins with the thought of like, hey, should we consider this? Should we plant this seed in our kids or in our heart? Should we see if it grows? It is pretty incredible. A mission for me, a mission for my daughter right now, one of the hardest things I will ever do. Much different than traveling around, learning the culture and this and that, right? You are, I've got these shoes. I'm going to step away and grab something. I talked to my team about the shoes that they wear in life and the choices we make today. And I show them some shoes that I've worn throughout my life and decisions that I made. And these are my mission shoes right here. They're just worn through. They're the most important shoes that I've worn in my life because of what they've now done for the rest of my life as the foundational choices that I made. And they weren't about me. I was on a mission, and the mission's like this pressure cooker of like this time in 2 years, 18 months, that you do something that's not for yourself, but you end up learning so much from personalities of other people that you're living with, being with somebody 24/7. How does that help you with marriage and relationships and talking through and difficult things and looking for the good, overlooking the bad, and then getting out of your way and say, I'm here to share something with people that will benefit their life, and I'm here to serve whatever somebody needs. And so it takes you out of this like phase of life where it's all about you as teenagers and what am I going to do this next? And so it puts you in this realm, in this pressure cooker of learning that life's not about you. And it is about a relationship, though. And I started to form a connection. I remember my first day in Mexico. I think I shared it in the book. I can't remember. I did, in Spanish a little bit. And I stood there on the curb, scared to death. I was this homesick child. I stood there on the curb, and I turned over to this companion of mine that didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Spanish. And I said, I don't know much. I've got a lot to learn, but I love Jesus Christ. And that's why I'm here. That love for Jesus Christ carried me through when I wanted to run home so many times. Like, how in the world do I do this? 24 months. It feels like a long time. Once it's over, now you're, 20-something years later, you've got kids. It's like, oh, man, that happened so quickly. But in the moment, it's a long time. But it's teaching these kids so much. And they're taking a message of truth to the world. And that solidifies their own witness of that truth. When it comes down to religion or faith, like the difference between, I think faith can lead you to religion. Faith can lead you to going to church or being active in a community. And the reason why I go to church is for a connection with God. It's a connection with the people that are there as well, because they can strengthen me. We share things like, right? There's a lot of men's groups and groups and stuff like that popping up. There's an elders quorum that I go to every Sunday, and I'm connected with that group of men who I'm learning about things in life, and I'm learning from their perspective and this and that. But the reason why I go to church is to partake of an ordinance, of a sacrament. And I take a piece of bread and a piece of water every week that's been blessed by priesthood holders. And I end my repentance process for the week. That is the reason why I go. No, like, yes, I'm going to go learn. I'm going to be strengthened by others and then by me and that, this and that. But if all it was, and in COVID, it demonstrated that well, like we were in our homes, we didn't have that was the thing. And I remember going into, that's the purpose. That's my religion. It's an organization that's set up, and it's a formal religion, obviously, but it provides ordinances and covenants that attach me to my Creator, attach me to my Savior. And every week I partake of that, and that connection is renewed. And my ability to repent about the things that I've done throughout the week, like, yeah, I screw up all the time. I mess up all the time. And throughout the week, I'm thinking about those things. And next week and tomorrow, I want to do better. But I formalize that repentance process on Sundays in church. I can't do that in the mountains. I love hunting. I love being in the mountains. I connect to God in the mountains very much. You're a spiritual guy. I'm a spiritual guy. We can go and create those connections. But I cannot renew a covenant unless I partake of that ordinance that God's asked us to do. So that's why the religion is so important to me. Yeah. And then I would just challenge you. We could talk about this for days, but I want to challenge you to do maybe two things.
Okay.
And then just test me in this.
Okay.
For a period of time.
Okay.
Obviously, the missionaries are going to come. That's great. I can't wait to hear what they share with you, what you guys feel and think. But this is more personal. I share about it in my book, and I've been doing it for 27 years. Every morning when I roll out of bed, I roll onto my knees. And I start my day recognizing that God is the priority. And I send him that signal. And I say, God, I'm on my knees. I'm speaking to you. And if you're there, if you're a God, let me know and help guide and direct my thoughts this day. Thank you for my family. I just say a prayer. Bless me today. I've got some important meetings. I've got some things to do. And then there's a book of scripture.
I've got a scary podcast coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was nervous for this one,
and then right after that, after you do your bathroom break, whatever, I want you, there's a book of scripture that you're very aware of. The missionaries are going to talk to you about it tonight. Spend 5 to 10 minutes in that, immediately right after that, every morning for the next.
In the Book of Mormon or in the Bible?
In the Book of Mormon. Start in the Book of Mormon, and open up the first page. Just start reading, but every day. Okay. For 30 days, if you're willing to go 90, do 90. Okay. But that's it. I had somebody when I was 15 years old challenge me to read in that book every day, and then they promised me that I would be blessed and my life would be changed if I did that. So I did it for the year. 15 years old. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I was just reading to keep up with the commitment.
Yeah, me too.
27 years later, that commitment stays strong. That every day, that's been a tool that's been a part of my faith and building my faith and my connection to God. Because when you open those, my mom calls them her letters from home. You're opening up a letter from home and you can see, okay, this is what God, when you read the words, just start in it, open it up. But there's a power that will come into your life the moment you begin a study in that book. And I promise you're going to feel it. But stay consistent. And with my life, it's been about consistency and then adding intensity over time. And the intensity comes by way of I've got these questions. I want to dive into a topic. I've got these thoughts I'm having. I want to pray about those and then see if I can receive some answers through it. But when you want to talk to God, pray. When you want to listen to God, open up the scriptures. And so for 30 days, do that. Just every day, don't miss a day. And then we'll podcast again. But it's there's a lot more to it. But it's as simple as that. Creating a routine that can start to water and give nourishment to that seed that you're planting, and see if it grows.
My mom always says, it's like a muscle, you got to exercise it, or it will atrophy, and I can respect all that. The thing that I want from it, and I don't, maybe this is selfish, but I just want that comfort, that, mostly for me, it's just knowing that I'll see people again. That's that would be just such a relief. You know, I don't have that, you know.
Do we have time to talk about that really quick?
Sure. Yeah, I got whatever you got.
Because a year ago, almost exactly, I got a call from my brother, and he said my dad had fallen and he didn't think he made it. So we rushed to their home, and I got there just in time. They had resuscitated him. My mom, he went out to get a drink in the night, about 10:30 at night. So she wasn't asleep yet, but she heard a big thud, went out. The lights were all off, so he just kind of misstepped going towards the kitchen, went down the stairs instead, and it was a concrete bottom in the basement, long flight of stairs. She found him kind of contorted, not in a scene that you'd want to see, and so she's dealing with the memory of that visual all the time. But he severed his spinal cord 100%, and they resuscitated him, got him out to the ambulance, took him to one hospital, flew him in helicopter to another hospital, and by the time we got there, the social workers came in and the doctors and said he's not going to survive this. But the breathing and everything, the drugs, they were breathing for him. But he was lifeless. The family gathered around the bed that night, and it was devastating. Never experienced anything. This is the first immediate family member that I've lost, and so we're sitting there, and we've been there for a few hours, and they tell us the drugs will wear off at about this time, and then you can expect that he'll just go, And so somebody in that room started to hum a hymn that maybe you've heard, and it's a hymn that's families can be together forever. Mm-hmm. And all of us started to hum together with that hymn, and then it was done. And then somebody else started to hum another hymn, and it was "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." And so all of us kind of joined in, and we started to hum, and that was done. And then we started to hum "Amazing Grace." And as soon as "Amazing Grace" started to be hummed by all of us in the room, and there was a really sweet, just special feeling and spirit in that room. This is my hero. He's about to go home to the God who gave him life and who gives each of us life. And we're humming these hymns that have meaning for us. The most important one, which you touched on, was you want to know that you'll be with your family together. So we hummed that, families could be together forever. Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, Amazing Grace. Right as we started that, the line on the machine just went flat. And my father was on to the next adventure. And I remember sitting in that room that night, listening to each of those, as we hummed and thinking about the words of those songs. Those are the powerful messages that these missionaries are going to share with you that you've heard before, right? And it's that families can be together forever, and it's because of the fount of every blessing, our Savior Jesus Christ, and it's through His amazing grace. We are saved by His grace, and that's the message that my daughter's taking out to the world. That's the only reason why I could let a daughter of mine leave my house, leave our home, leave our care to go out. It's because families need to know that. They need the peace that can come, the comfort that can come. That's it. She just had her companion she's with right now. Her father just passed away. And she didn't go home. And she didn't go home because she said, I need to let these families know that what I'm out here teaching is real. And I will see my father again. But that message of those songs, and it's through the amazing grace of Jesus Christ, there's a scripture that says how great the importance to make these things known unto the inhabitants of the earth. And it's those things that are known. That's what brings peace and comfort. And then it's a connection through ordinances that brings a comfort into people's lives. You probably read a story in my book about a tree stand that I sat up in, and I was able to attach myself to it and sit up there and endure the day, endure the life, and then as you apply that to life.
Tree stands terrify me. I have a bad relationship. I'm afraid of heights. So I was with you the whole time on that one.
Heights and bears, and I had that all
I'm with you. I
was
like, get out of the tree, run.
But that's what my religion does to me, is it attaches me to the tree through covenants with the Lord. A covenant is a two-way promise. It's a handshake. It's a vow. It's like, hey, we're in this together. And so taking that sacrament each week allows that connection to be made full and complete. And that brings peace into life. It brings peace to families, that there is comfort, there is a way, and that families can be together forever. You've probably read in the book as well, my mom named all of us T's, and our initials are TF. The family slogan's together forever. That was our family song. Families can be together forever. Yeah. And that's what brings me more joy and happiness and peace and comfort that you're talking of than anything else in my life. And so it's a message that if I was asked to drop my nets right now and go and share, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would go broke to do it.
Yeah.
I would pay to do it. Like it's that important. It has brought that much peace and comfort into my life. So
Yeah, so a little bit of story about mine. I was in Australia. We hadn't seen my family for about 9 months. We usually try to meet up in Alaska. So my grandparents and parents would meet us in Alaska. We'd fish with them for a week or two on my boat, and then we'd continue on to our travels. That way, every year, 6 months, we'd see them. And like I said, my grandpa was my best friend, just inseparable. For the last while, he was there when I was trying to rebuild my business and all that. So we just had that father-son relationship there. And I was in Australia, and they called up and said, "Hey, Grandpa's had a heart attack. He's going to go in St. George. He's going to go into surgery. You need to talk to him." They said everything should be fine. They're going to put some stents in, but he just wants to say hi. So we had a short conversation. I love you.
Wow.
I wish I was there. I'm on the other side of the world, but I'll talk to you soon. And I'll get emotional now. He wouldn't come out of it. So he came out of the surgery and just wouldn't come out of sedation. Something happened. They think he might have, it was like a 6 or 7 bypass or something. And so I talked to my buddy who's an anesthesiologist, and he says, that's a long time for your heart to be out, running through a machine. And so he probably had a clot. And anyway, they called me up and said, he's basically in a coma. We're not sure what's going to happen. And we were in Adelaide, Australia, and we were like a couple days later, we were supposed to be flying to Singapore. And I says, I'll be home. And so I got my entire family and we flew home. It cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and we rerouted back to St. George, Utah. And I got here and he was in the hospital, and I spent, I think, 13 days and nights. I didn't leave his side.
Wow.
And sorry. And he didn't make it.
You're good.
And we finally had to pull the plug, and I don't have that comfort. And so, I wish I did. My mom does, and I rely heavily on her faith, You look to those people that you love and respect, and you pray that they're right. But I don't have it, so I'm envious of that.
Well, somebody that I respect highly once said, if you don't have the faith, just lean on mine. If all you do is maybe test out the belief, and then lean on mine, do that. So you have your mom, you have others, you have me. But it's a test. Like even you saw you saw in my book, I talked about paying 10% of our tithing. That's something in the scriptures in the Bible that says, he says, try me in this and see that I won't open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing to where you can't receive. And that doesn't always come by way of like money or finances. It might be health, it might be strength, it might be ability. And then sometimes there is financial resource. And but I would just say with the faith that you do have and the desire you do have to have that comfort, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough they say to move mountains. So just start with there.
Yeah.
Start with that. And it's, in my opinion, if you start with that with great intention and you truly do want to have that comfort in your life, you're going to find it. I have 100% confidence. And but it will come down to your true intention, your true desire, and the time and attention that you put into that desire. You get out of things what you put into it, right? And so
absolutely.
I'm sorry that happened. At some point that's going to happen to all of us, and these relationships that matter most, they ultimately, there's a temporary separation in this life. And I wasn't sure how I would respond to a father or mother or somebody in my family, and it just re-solidified the fact and the feelings that I felt during that whole process. And now here a year later, that what I've been taught, what I've taught, what I felt is real. And it's been reconfirmed through experience and through, spiritual experience that what's going on with my dad is good, and he's in a place that he loves being, and that one day we'll see him again. And that definitely is a comfort greater than any comfort that we could find or buy or anything in life. And so if that is true, it's worth putting forth the time and attention and effort to figure out, to see, to test, to apply and see how you feel. So I'm,
especially for your kids.
Thanks for sharing that.
You know, especially for your kids too, because I look at my little boys and soon to be my daughter, you know, and I just think, you know, if this is possible to attain, I cannot keep you from that. You know, if maybe something's broken in me or something that I just can't get there, but I will never keep them from, if they can find that, you know, finding it. And that's kind of what I told my wife.
If they find that and you,
they'll convince me.
If they find that, they'll convince you. I was just going to say, like, that heaven wouldn't be heaven without my family, right?
100%.
And so it's like, we're all broken.
Yeah.
We're all, life is this world is a broken place. But there's the answer in my Conquer code. It's like, there's someone that heals, there's someone that fixes, there's someone that knows. I share a quote there: "You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were." That's why Jesus Christ is the most powerfully positioned to serve all of us, to help us. He is our Savior, and he has gone through everything we have, that we will, so that he can come to our aid and be there and comfort. There's one thing that the adversary that's out there can never mimic, and that's peace. And the comfort you're talking about. He can't bring it. He can't bring peace to our lives. That only comes through one source, and that's the Prince of Peace. So so I'm proud of you for, you know, the thoughts and the process and the desire and the questions and the, you know, and just how you're leading as a father and husband. That's super commendable, and this is what life's all about.
Yeah, I agree, man. I appreciate you for writing the book, and you know, this world's new to me. You know, I've always been kind of private, and like you said, I don't have that religious aspect or whatever, but I don't know what it is. But I told my wife, I'm like, I feel like I should start a company that, you know, that gets people enjoying life and gets them off screens and gets, you know, so I love what you're doing. I appreciate your time again. You know, that is my number one thing. I appreciate you taking your time. How do people reach you, Trevor? What's the way?
I mean, the business, it's Mountain Ops, MTN, OPS. That's what we use for social media, for our website and everything. For my name, it's just Trevor Farnes, TREVORFARNES. And you can also find the book at theconquercode.com and on Amazon. I mean, it'll redirect people to Amazon or Audible for that. And I'm on social media, on LinkedIn and such. And I look forward to learning more about you and your business and seeing how we can support each other as well. It's exciting. So shoot me a message after and let's keep connected.
Absolutely. I will. I'll stop recording here and then let me chat with you 1 second. So I'm going to turn this off.
Cool.
What a great conversation. I'm really glad that we get to have opportunities to actually jump back and re-show some of the early conversations when, M42 Adventures was new. I wasn't around in the beginning, so I came on later, about 9 months in. We're just barely over a year at this point, and that's where I came in, was late September, October area. So it was right when the Genesis launched. But really looking forward to everything we have going on here at M42 Adventures. Please stay tuned on the website, join the Genesis, and you can be informed of all the things that we have going on and join in the things that you're near. So thank you very much for tuning in. See you on the next one.